The following is a conversation with Nigel MacGregor. He's a practitioner of homeopathic medicine. In 2012, Nigel began playing in the Canadian Junior Football League for the Edmonton Huskies as an offensive tackle. After 3 years of playing high-intensity ball, he knew his body would not keep up with the high-impact sport much longer. After discovering the power of homeopathy to help speed up his recovery from physical activity, he decided to learn more about the mysteries of homeopathy. Nigel enjoys meditating, hunting, snowboarding, nature walks, and large bonfires with friends. This is the Sarafino Podcast. If you like what you hear, click subscribe and tell all of your friends. And now my conversation with Nigel MacGregor.
Yeah, what is homeopathy? I guess that might be
that's definitely a question.
A big question.
I know a little bit about homeopathic medicine. I've had it through you and also through my naturopath years ago, and it's like a lot of alternative medicine. It seems a little hokey pokey, and you've got these little white sugar tablets, and you're like, how is this possible? What is this stuff? What? It's energetically charged? Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. So it takes a lot of, and I still don't know a lot about it, but what I do know is that it works.
That's true.
Well, otherwise you'd be out of business.
That's true.
and I'm sure homeopathic medicine's been around maybe even longer than allopathic medicine.
It's been around since it was like the early 1800s, late 1700s. So there still was allopathic medicine, but it was founded by a doctor named Samuel Hahnemann, and basically he was kind of tired of the way that allopathic medicine was treating people back in those days, because there was a lot of like blood purging or leeching or heavy doses of mercury for syphilis, and so most often the patients were passing away from the treatment and not from the disease, and he did not feel this was good on his conscience, right? So he tried to find something else, and what he found was readings from a Scottish physician using cinchona bark to treat malaria. And so he's thought this was kind of strange, like, how a plant...
Cinchona bark?
Yeah, Peruvian bark.
Oh, Peruvian.
Yeah. And because, so what he would do was, the Scottish physician found that the symptoms of malaria were similar to the symptoms of when you ingested this Peruvian bark. You'd get like heart palpitations, maybe cold sweats, like diarrhea, like not good kind of, malaria, right? And so then Hahnemann began ingesting this medicine, and he would produce these symptoms, right? And so kind of similar, the idea is like cures like. So he began diluting the bark so that it was safe to ingest, but he was also finding that it was still like being effective on people, right? Yeah, that's kind of like how it started. If I can do it with one substance, what else can I do it with, right? So then he began to write his Materia Medica, which is, his book of medicine. And, by conducting these provings, by either ingesting the crude substances or taking it diluted, you'd produce these symptoms, right? And matching the symptoms that the substance can produce to, a disease that can therefore like cures like.
Kind of like fighting fire with fire.
Exactly, yeah.
So this all began in Peru?
No, Hahnemann, he was from Germany.
Right.
Yeah.
But the first application or the first homeopathic medicine was derived from...
That's that substance kind of started the whole concept for him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So if someone gets malaria, you would get this
remedy?
Yeah.
So the thing with homeopathy is that it's a very individualized form of medicine. It's not basically we look at every person as different, right? We don't all experience the same form of headache or the same type of allergies or pain, or we all experience life very differently. And so it's about understanding the individual and matching their own specific kind of symptoms to the individual remedy that has that same kind of picture. The cool thing about homeopathy is that, like, you don't necessarily need a diagnosis. I'm not saying like you shouldn't get a diagnosis. It's just often a diagnosis can be misleading, right? May not necessarily be this name that they give you. It could be something else. So then, the form of treatment may be completely different based on...
Symptoms are similar for two different diseases, then yeah, of course that can happen.
Yeah. So with homeopathy, we look more at the symptoms the person is experiencing. So like the subjective symptoms, their sensations, their modalities, what makes it better, what makes it worse, the location and the pain and so on, and then the objective symptoms. So you like through like physical examination, or just from like what you see on the outside of them, kind of like physical. Is it an infection, or is it a broken bone? There's the objective kind of symptoms, and yeah, it's a nice benefit to you can still treat something serious, or I don't know where I'm going with this.
Okay. Well, I knew where you're going with it, but we can what got you into homeopathic medicine?
That's a good question. So like I was originally from Western Canada, and I was playing like semi-professional football in Edmonton, and it was kind of taking like a toll on my body. It was a high impact sport, and so I felt like there's something else that needed to happen. Like a plan B, or just another career choice. And I always knew that I wanted to get into like holistic medicine, whether it was like sports medicine, or like kinesiology, or acupuncture, nutrition. I knew there's something out there that I wanted to do, but I wasn't quite sure yet. And then I came across like homeopathy in Toronto, and how it was only taught in Toronto. Like the main kind of colleges are out here, just because Ontario is the only province where homeopathy is regulated. So it's seen like same kind of like list as like your pharmacists and your doctors, your massage therapists. They're all covered by insurance, right? Just because we're it's seen as like proven effective medicine. And
All right, Ontario.
Yeah, right. It's kind of shocking. Some people like agree with it and some don't. Because you have sets you into these standards. You have to like follow these certain rules and have your scope of practice and pay registration fees. Mm-hmm. But it allows you to like call yourself a homeopath with having like accreditation, and you went through certain clinical hours and the right kind of education to be able to call yourself a homeopath, right? You don't have to, you don't take like an online course and then all of a sudden you know it, right? It takes years and years to know it, to learn how it works.
Well, it's kind of like doctors, right? I think that's why we sort of use the term, a doctor practices, because it's always evolving. And I'm assuming with homeopathic medicine, it's the same thing. And it's like, maybe this is going back to what you were saying earlier about, it's sort of a trial and error as well with the patient, because you don't always know exactly what remedy or what dose or what strength it needs to be applied in. So you just play with it, but it's such a safe mode of medicine that it allows you to play with that without any side effects.
Yeah, very true. That's a great benefit of it too. It's just so safe for everyone, you know, a baby, a pregnant person, adult, child, senior. And it totally is an experiment. Like they say homeopathy is a pseudoscience and that it's, you know, it's fake science, yet it is like the very definition of science, because you're following this theory that this man produced. And as long as you follow it correctly, you will see, like, you know, the proper results, you know, the person getting better. And it's just, yeah, it's so individual and so unique. You never know what, like, kind of potency to use, if it's the right remedy, is it too strong? It's kind of constantly ongoing experiment and learning how to, you know, everyone's like either highly sensitive or not sensitive. And, you know, they may not always need a homeopathic remedy. Maybe it's a lifestyle change or a diet, you know, food change. They need healthier olive oil, real olive oil. And, yeah, so that's kind of, homeopathy is more about just using like these highly diluted medicines. It's about understanding the person and, you know, what's their stress like? Are they in a healthy relationship? Are they sleeping good? You know, are they eating good? Are they interacting well? Are they, you know, it's quality of life, right?
It's the holistic approach.
Yeah.
So the pills, if you will, the pellets, is that what we call them?
Pellets, yeah.
Pellets, yeah. So they're so safe, and it's lactase?
Yeah, most companies will use lactose. Here in Canada, they use like a sucrose and lactose. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's like the inner and the outer coating.
So it's the majority of that pellet, that medicine, is just sugar?
Yeah, so
sounds counterintuitive, but
it's
very loaded.
odd.
It's uploaded with information, essentially.
It holds an information. You know, water holds a memory, right? It's an imprint. There was you know, like Dr. Emoto would play the different kinds of music to water and freeze it, and the structure would be completely different.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, it's very cool. And so these pellets, basically there's like a scale of, like, you know, there's different potencies, like there's different strengths and like vitamins and minerals, like your micrograms, milligrams, your grams, kilograms. There's different potencies with homeopathy where, you know, there's different scales. Like there's the C scale, where basically it's like a 1 in 100th dilution, or there's like, you know, the X scale, which is like a decimal, or X10, so 1 in 10 dilution. The remedies like that Hahnemann used were a 1 in 100 dilution, so the C scale. And so basically you'd take, like, say 1 gram of your Peruvian bark to, you'd make a mother tincture out of it. So you'd add that to like pure alcohol, let it soak for 2 weeks, kind of giving it a good swirl every day. And then they would take 1 drop of that mother tincture to 99 parts water or alcohol. And then they would succuss it, vigorously shake it so that, you know, the water would kind of infuse and imprint that memory. Then they would, from that would kind of, we would call it a 1C. And then from that 1C, we'd take 1 part to 99 parts water, vigorously shake it, and that's a 2C. And so, you know, there's then repeat it, 3C, 4C, 5C. So
that's what the numbers are on the little vials?
Yeah, it's the dilution. So most often you see is like a 6C or a 30C or a 200C. Then it goes into 1M, so 1,000, because it's all, I believe, like those are Latin numerals.
Yeah, like Roman numerals.
Roman numerals, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So with today's current science, Avogadro's number, he was a scientist that came up with, you know, when something's been diluted so far, there's nothing left, right? There's no crude physical substance. So past the 12th dilution, the 12C, Most scientists are like, the big claim is that there's nothing left, there's no physical substance left past the 12C, yet these medicines are still producing action, still, stimulating the body or holding on to this energy to have like to be used in treatment, right? And now like newer science with like, the high powered microscopes and like nanotechnology, they are finding that past the 12C dilution that there is still like an imprint or, almost like a memory. Like I think they did it with like the gold, silver, all these like heavy metals, and they're finding like the same kind of structure on like a nanoparticle size in water. I forget which potency they use, but it's showing that there's still something there, right? It's just you can't necessarily see it on So diluting it makes it safe so that anyone can take it, and reduces like any side effects. There can still be a side effect based on if you're taking it like too frequently and it's too strong for you. There can be like an aggravation, or you may produce a symptom from it. But then if you notice that, as soon as you stop, things should kind of return back to normal.
Or the side effect is you just get cured.
Yeah, or you feel better. Yeah.
Side effect. Effect, side effect.
Yeah.
They both sort of mean the same thing to me. It has an effect, whether it's a side, or left, or right, or a front.
Side effects, you'll be feeling better.
So can you basically apply homeopathy to any sort of ailments and disease, and whether it's, cancer or a broken arm, or like, obviously you can't fix a broken arm, but, well, I actually have an experience using homeopathy, and I think this was, it wasn't through you, it was before I even knew you, but I had a ruptured bicep tendon.
Yeah.
And so I think it was at Nature's actually, and I started talking to whoever the expert was there in homeopathy, and they're like, yeah, you take, I think it was arnica, which seems to be a really go-to.
It's a popular, yeah.
Yeah, Arnica montana.
Yeah.
So I started taking those because I had to get surgery done. They had to, because of the bicep completely detached.
Wow.
So yeah, they had to cut you open, grab the tendon, screw it into your bone. So I had to take that before I went in for the surgery, and then directly after. And I didn't take any pain meds. And I mean, when the bicep ruptured, I was silly. I was on the roof. There was an ice buildup on the roof. Anyways, I ended up pulling on a big hunk of ice that wasn't moving, but my bicep moved. It was just like boing. It was like that noise of like, oh my God, what the hell was that? And I was just like, oh, my arm. Anyways, the surgery was done, and then, I was given painkillers, were the oxycodone or cotton, whatever it is. And at that point, I'm like, I've heard about those. I'm like, isn't this stuff like addictive or whatever? Anyways, I never had one of those. I never had any Tylenol. I mean, I was on some of my other supplements, but taking the Arnica montana, and then whatever. I think there was there was two different type of meds I had to take, and the person I was with at the time made me take. You got to take those. It was like for antibiotic or something like that. Anyways, I didn't take anything, and I was just. I mean, I could feel the pain, but I also feel like it's important to feel pain, because it's like, your body's, there's a message there. Obviously, you get certain things freeze when you go to the dentist, and you can't, pain can be pretty excruciating, but it's like, I need to experience some pain, but I know for certain that arnica was like working, because it's like, I didn't feel the pain really there. And I, using, of course, other healthy foods, and at the time, and I went back to the doctor right when I got my cast off, and then even a follow-up afterwards. Like, she was impressed with how quickly I had healed, and plus, I put olive oil on my skin at that time too, so it like my arm looked pretty damn good for just getting a cast taken off of it.
Wow. Like
And
you're putting it underneath the cast?
I put a little bit there, but not much. But
Okay.
it wasn't until my cast was right off that I started slathering in it.
Yeah.
I usually use olive oil anyways, but it was a lot more difficult when you're stuck in a cast for 6 weeks. So that was painful. But anyways, the arnica, that's where I really, and that was, I think it was like 6-7 years ago. And that's my first time experiencing it, and just like, I mean, within the years, I've been like, every day that goes by, and the healthier you become, the more connected you become to your body, and more sensitive you are to certain things that you end up taking as medicine or just as food, which is medicine. But I really felt the effects of it, especially after the surgery. It was just like, yeah, I could see that with the surgery, and the fact that I'm in a cast is like, okay, I feel like I should be in more pain than I am. And, and just talking to whoever the doctor is like, yeah, you're going to need to take 2 of these or whatever. And I'm like, I didn't take any of them. I took some of the antibiotics, and what happens with that stuff is just you get backed up. I'm like, yeah, my body doesn't feel right. I'm not taking these things. So, so is it, I mean, I used it for that. It obviously didn't attach my bicep tendon, but
No.
it certainly, and this is where, the whole world of medicine needs to like get together and have a little bit of a collaborative party of like, hey man, we'll repair the people that get into car accidents or bust up their tendons, and homeopathy might be good for that certain application for that type of person, or, acupuncture, or obviously holistic nutrition. So where do
you draw the line?
Yeah. Where I guess maybe what are some of the most effective places for homeopathic medicine?
It's, I think the original was like, broken bones and cancer, and definitely like, there's 2 different kinds of like disease categories, right? There's your acute disease. So your colds and flus, your broken bones, sprains and strains, maybe it's a headache, things that come on suddenly and go away rapidly, or maybe they stick around, and that's when they become chronic. And then, chronic can lead to worse things if you don't look after it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with homeopathy, it can be used to treat, a variety of ailments, right? So again, like your acute and chronic. But, not everyone, it's tricky because not everyone may respond the best, or, if depending on like their lifestyle, or maybe they're already on a lot of medications, or like a lot of suppression, so like anti-therapy, they may not respond well. Like it's tricky with chronic versus acute. It's like acute disease, homeopathy, if you get that right remedy, it's going to work well. It's going to do what you want it to do. The thing with like homeopathy is that it doesn't have like a direct physical action on the body, right? These remedies, like they're so diluted that they're just like an artificial stressor. They're kind of stimulating our life force, our chi, our prana, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call this dynamic energy that kind of runs through us, that governs our mental emotion, our physical, our immune system. So that's the remedies stimulate this life force so that we, like our bodies are doing the work. It's bringing itself back into balance. For the tendon, arnica, it's like the plant is used for pain in crude substance, in crude forms, like they'll do arnica topically. It also is very poisonous, so that's why you don't want to use like large amounts of crude. You always still have to dilute it like with an oil. Mm-hmm. But through a homeopathic preparation, it makes it safe because it's diluted. It basically kind of like prepares the body to heal itself better. It stimulates a healing action. Well, stimulating is not the right word, but this stress,
sort of like a switch or a trigger, or
that'd be a good way to put it. It just kind of tells the body, like, I guess one way to think about it is if your body's a computer and you're plugging in that software to heal, right? So then, whether it's the tendon or the bone or the pain, there's certain remedies, certain software for different parts of the body, right? And you find that through like crude substances, like St. John's wort. It's good for the nervous system, so it's good for nerve pains. So then, you can take it homeopathically for nerve pain as well. Like, maybe you slammed your finger in the door or something, or, your eye got hurt.
So is all homeopathic medicine derived from plants?
They're made from plant, animal, mineral, even like diseased tissue, healthy tissue. It's made from a lot of different things, but generally plant, animal, or mineral.
Right. Oh, that's
kingdoms.
right. So for because I called you that one time when I got my my first aid kit. My nephew
got his bee sting.
Yeah, I got a bee sting or wasp sting.
Yeah.
And then, you told me to use I forget the name of it. What's it called?
Apis.
Apis.
Yeah.
And that has actual, would have come from.
It's made from bee venom.
Right.
Yeah. And so, in a way, look like cures like. You think about when you get stung by a bee. Have you ever been stung?
Yeah.
Yeah. It gets red, itchy, inflamed. You want to put something cold on it. And that's kind of the
olive oil.
Olive oil, yeah.
Naturally.
But it feels hot. So not everyone, but generally you want to put on like something cold to cool it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Apis has, through the provings and through, being stung by a bee, that's kind of what the symptoms show that it can be used for. So, it can be used for a bee sting. Maybe like if you ran into poison ivy or something, it can be helpful for that. It's good for allergic reactions too. Like, it's the reaction kind
of. It's like everything, I guess, is derived from nature. I mean, allopathic medicine is in some way derived from. Of course, it's derived from nature. I think anything that comes from earth is natural, right?
Yeah, like certain heart medications come from plants. Like digitalis makes digoxin. It's like a heart medication. It's
probably the isolated forms of medicine that sort of make them perhaps have undesirable side effects.
Yeah, the strong, crude, isolated forms.
Yeah, because I've, reading and educating myself with like holistic nutrition was always a thing of mine. Obviously, I work in the food industry, so I just dove into that over the years and watched tons of videos and followed Dr. John Axe or whoever. There's tons of them out there, and was one. I forget who it was, but it's just simplifying certain things. And it was like, when you extract basically the white stuff out of a plant, you refine the heck out of that wheat and you're just left with the white substance that has, no mineral vitamin content to it. Then you have like, of course, whole wheat bread and perhaps, sourdough fermented is better than just plain super white Wonder Bread. And then you have like the coca leaf, which, you extract the white stuff out of the coca leaf. And what do you got? You got like, it's a pretty harmful drug.
Yeah.
But the coca leaf on its own is medicine. And it's, it's even used, which I've had a couple discussions with this, it's used for climbing mountains. Yeah. And it gives you that energy, the stamina.
Helps with your blood, with the oxygen.
It gives you better blood circulation, probably opens up your lungs. So it's like all these things that are out there that, we end up extracting certain things. And I guess a plant on its own can't be patent, right?
You can't patent nature.
Can't patent nature, so we got to come up with these concoctions that we can patent so that, certain,
So we can make money.
certain people can profit. So is there any homeopathic remedies that use olive leaf?
I believe they do make remedy from olive leaf.
Yeah, because I know there's tinctures, olive leaf
There's
tinctures.
herbal extracts, yeah. So I've never used it in practice, but I believe they make, I'm sure there's one. There's like 3,000 plus remedies.
Oh, really?
Yeah. More than that now, I'm sure.
So homeopathic, and we touched on this earlier, but homeopathic medicine isn't just to cure, but it's also can be used as a preventative.
Yeah, so we can't necessarily say we cure, we treat disease.
Right.
And yeah, you can use it, basically like using it to treat something, it's going to make your life force stronger, more vital, creating vitality and reducing your susceptibility to, say you're being treated for allergies. With the right remedy, hopefully like next allergy season, the symptoms will be reduced by like the severity. Severity will be reduced so that, they're not as bad this year. Maybe next year they're even, 20% better, and eventually like they should go away because, we're creating balance, harmony.
So, yeah, we're going to go back to the bark from Peru there. So if one were to go to Peru where you need, to protect yourself perhaps from yellow fever or malaria, like, is there something is there a way of preparing your body for that through homeopathy?
I forgot. Yeah, there's treatment and then there's prevention, right? So the prevention, it's called homeoprophylaxis. That's not really something we can practice in Ontario, but it's, we can still use homeopathy to strengthen the immune system, strengthen the body. Mm-hmm. There's a doctor, and he's from Australia. He did like a 15-year study on homeoprophylaxis, using homeopathic remedies for disease prevention, whether it was, chicken pox or strep throat, malaria, yellow fever, dengue fever. He found like all these remedies that produce these similar symptoms, and he found like, he was able to get the research to find families that, wanted a safe alternative. And like through his 15 years of research, he found that, homeoprophylaxis is just as effective and more safer than, other ways to prevent disease.
Other ways. Right.
So yeah, like malaria, you could make the remedy yourself. It might take you a couple hours. But there are certain remedies for certain, preventions.
Where's homeopathy popular? Is it popular in Germany because it was?
It's popular in Brazil, like the UK, Australia, North America's kind of coming around. Germany, France. There's like some great people in like Montreal, Ottawa. Yeah, it's kind of like all over. You just you don't really hear
Uxbridge.
about Uxbridge, yeah. Toronto, there's a great school there.
So it's obviously a growing mode of health for individuals out there. I think you were saying, was it Cuba that was using homeopathy?
Cuba, yeah. So Cuba and homeopathy, they came out with certain remedies to take for prevention. They also did a very cool study with homeoprophylaxis. They get a bacteria strain around when they have their hurricane season, because there's a lot of water that lays around, and it comes in from the animal urine, because the water and it just mixes, and this bacteria begins to grow, and then it gets into their drinking water. It's called leptospirosis, and so they weren't able to make enough vaccines. Like, it was, cost too much, or it was too difficult to get them to all these small towns, and to get, it's not just like a big city in Cuba, right? There's a lot of little areas, and so then I don't know, the Finley Institute, where the place where they make vaccines, got the idea to use like homeopathy for prevention. So then they made a remedy out of the bacteria to be taken as preventative measure, and it showed to be like extremely, like, really successful, and like far safer than a vaccine. And it was it's a very proud moment for homeopathy. Yeah.
All right, homeboys.
So it's the information's out there. You just have to dig for it, right? It's not black and white. It's things are kind of hidden.
That we know. Well, we know here anyways, there's the whole truth about olive oil, and it's become our mission, our company's mission to, whether it's our truth or the olive oil industry's truth, it's straight up the truth for me, because I know what's going on in the olive oil industry, and it's just comes down to education and getting people aware of our perspective on what we see. And you don't really know something until you really know it, or get into it, or start to talk to someone who works in that industry, or has a family business in that industry, or or is treating people from homeopathy. I mean, I'm sure so many people are just not even aware that what homeopathy even is, or that it even exists.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't know about it.
And that, that doesn't surprise me, of course, because it's, it's the same story with, what we go on with is like, there's real olive oil and there's fake olive oil. What's fake olive oil? How can there be fake olive oil? Like,
it says 100% on a bottle, right?
It's extra virgin, and I bought it in the grocery store. It has to be real.
Yeah.
So, yeah, education is key I think in any industry, and we're not, we obviously have to market our products, but our drive isn't marketing a product. I mean, I guess we are marketing it through the form of education, and it's just, once people see the effects, know the effects, smell it, and understand the value of a particular product or service. I mean, for homeopathic medicine, it's like you don't truly understand it until someone says something about it, and like, hey, I had this experience where I did this, and I took homeopathy, and I was, feeling better. It got me over those migraine headaches I was having, or depression, or whatever it is that, the certain person had. So it's, that word of mouth, and then, people get into it and start learning more about it.
Yeah. You got to see it to believe it.
Yeah. I'd say that's the majority of, the way that we like to look at things. And from what I've been doing over the years, I can believe, many of things, or I don't even really like using the word believe, but I just, I end up knowing, or I don't know. And then there's like, from the little I do know, you realize that there's so much more to know, which means you better have an open mind, because if you don't, there's so much that you're, closing off to, which the potential is endless of what can actually be possible when it comes to health and medicine. And, something, I forget how the saying goes, but it's basically, where God places, I guess the example was, this was like poison ivy or poison oak or something, like where God places the disease or the or the poison, the antidote is like very close by. You don't have to go that far.
Yeah.
And I forget with poison ivy, there's another plant, I believe, that you can use that
Okay.
that actually will reverse the effects, or it'll be the antidote to poison ivy.
Is it plantain?
I can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah. But what so we're going to maybe talk about maybe the relationship with food and homeopathy, or how one should eat, because that's the business we're in, and we also have these huge hunks of
chaga mushrooms,
and so you're up
fungus.
Yeah, you're up north at my brother's place, and you told me you were up there and you actually had these in your car. And I'm a huge fan of chaga, and we have a good friend who's a champion chaga hunter. And I've seen some nice hunks of chaga, but these are two beauties. And they have really nothing directly to do with our talk, but it is fungus. It is medicine. I wouldn't say it's maybe a food, because you can drink it, I guess. You can eat it, I guess, if you grind it up. But you went for a little chaga hunt, and because one of my questions was going to be like, hey, what do you do for fun? I know you're into foraging, obviously.
Yeah, foraging, being in the forest, nature.
We were supposed to go for a walk this summer, or 5 of them, but I was out there solo most of the time.
Sorry, man. We'll get to it. Yeah, like creativity, like art as well. Art's always been a big good like output for me, just to kind of de-stress. Arts and crafts, painting. What else? Yeah. Wow. I like to paint. I don't know why. It's nice to see the colors and mix them up and create something. Or drawing. I can do a little bit of a drawing. I like, nature and plants. I like growing plants. We had a nice big garden this year. Yeah. Transitioned some plants indoors, like some rosemary, and have like a patchouli plant and a eucalyptus plant in our office. Some aloe, and it's I don't know, I'm pretty like simple, don't like to do too many things, just be with nature and take it easy and do homeopathy and eat good food and find cool mushrooms.
I guess that's why we get along. We're friends, right? I think we're
friends. Oh yeah. Check. But like food is a big hobby of mine too, right? Like food is amazing. Food is medicine, right? Just like they say. And it's kind of like the food is your foundation. It's, if you're not putting in the right kind of fuel into your engine, that engine's not gonna last long. And it's about the right kind of fats, your monosaturated fats, your olive oils, your avocado oils, making sure they're pure, and there's nothing else, any bad like oils that you don't want in there, like maybe a canola or a safflower or sunflower. Your good saturated fats as well, like your butter, your animal fats. I'm kind of like coconut. Yeah, that's a great saturated fat. I'm a big I'd say like I'm an omnivore kind of style, right? Like I'm, animal-based foods are very nutrient dense, but there's also a lot of great vitamins, antioxidants, minerals from your plant-based foods. So it's, life, it's all about the balance and finding what works best for you, and the right amounts of your protein, your carbs, and your fats. That's kind of the 3 main food groups in my eyes, right? It's make sure you get enough protein, get enough fats and enough carbs, so that you're meeting your calorie intake requirements. Or if you're starting to lift weights or something more, maybe you need more protein or more carbohydrates for like energy and for calories. Or maybe you're going keto or something, or you're fasting too,
That's me.
Then you don't need any of it.
This is day 2. I'm on a day 2 fast.
How you feeling?
Amazing. Like, I've never, the last time I did it, intermittent fasting is something I've been doing for years now. And a little bit off and on, like some mornings I'll break the fast. Not really, like I'll have maybe a mix, like I'll have like a cacao, maca, coconut oil, like that'll be my sort of morning coffee drink. Not coffee, I've actually cut out coffee for the last couple of weeks now. I was off and on. So intermittent fasting I'm very familiar with. But I'm like, and it kept coming up, and I've had it in the back of my mind where I'm like, I want to do a serious like water fast, and just experience that. And I know from the little bit of research, and I haven't done that much research into it. So I was like, forget it. I don't have time to research it. I'm just going to do it. And I feel like the little bit of research I did do is like, you need to prepare yourself, and don't expect if you're like eating pizza and burgers and all the foods that you really shouldn't be eating all day long every day, then going on a fast is not going to work for you.
No.
Who knows what would probably happen to your body. So, yeah, I feel like I've been at it long enough. I'm like, yeah, I think I can handle it. And, I sort of watched what I ate the day before I started, which was only, I guess, 3 days ago. And just before that, it was Halloween, and I was out with my nephews, and I had a couple of candies as I was taking them around trick-or-treating. So I was like, after the candies, and I woke up with a hangover the next day because I don't eat sugar or whatever that stuff is in there.
Processed, yeah.
High fructose corn syrup or whatever, and the coloring. And I was just like feeling like crap. I'm like, oh God, candy. I haven't had candy, since last year. So I'm like, okay, then that just somehow projected me into like, that's it. I'm doing that fast, like, tomorrow after like clean up and because I didn't want to do it right up the day after. So yeah, because I do intermittent fasting, getting through the day wasn't a problem, but come towards the end of the night where I usually would have like a half decent meal, that's where I was like starting to kick my ass. And then after, I guess whenever, usually I would have dinner, and sometimes it ranges, as early as like 7 and as late as like 8 or 9. But once that time period passed, it just like, I felt this relief. And then, yeah, my cognition or my brain power or something happened where I was just like, wow, I feel like I just noticed myself being lighter, and like I don't know, some trigger went off, and it was just like I felt smarter or something. Or I was just like, yeah, information was coming to me, and I just felt clearer, and my mind was just open and relaxed. And then, my sleep was amazing. I've been having, off and on sleep for the last little while for some reason. Well, I might have a good reason why, but yeah, so this is day 2. The end of day 2, and yeah, today was a little rough because we did a whole bunch of video work upstairs, so I could feel like, yeah, my brain not firing off the way I normally can feel it, and and even coming down to talking about our own products, I was just like, I should know this stuff. I'm like, come on. So but once I got into it, and I had a half a teaspoon of honey, just to like, I got to do something here because and I did a little bit of cordyceps actually. Those are amazing. I got them from our acupuncture Chinese medicine there. Yeah. So I did a bit of that, and then I was on my way, and here I am talking to you. So I was worried because the way this lined up, and, the availability of Michael being able to capture this content. So I was like, this is the only time it's going to happen. And how do you think I'm doing?
I think you're doing very good.
This is green tea in here.
Yeah.
So I've been having teas. I've been having chaga tea, reishi tea. So like a whole bunch of mushroom teas actually, and some green tea. This is an oolong tea, just to like give me some caffeine boost or whatever in the day, which is good. Yeah, no food.
No food.
So this is the longest I've ever gone without eating food, and it's funny because it gives you this, and I know it's going to give me an even greater appreciation. I'm like, when food becomes a part of my.
Oh, that first bite again, yeah. You're like, wow.
and it also puts time into perspective too, because it's just like, it saves you time, because then you're looking at how much time you actually spend preparing food, eating food, washing the dishes, all that sort of stuff like that. And the way I like to cook and I like to eat, it doesn't take 20 minutes.
No.
The prep is not even typically done in 20 minutes. By the time you pick the kale out of the garden, wash it down, sometimes I trim it up, take the stems off, chop it up, it's like, and I enjoy it, but that takes like an hour.
Yeah.
And then you got to eat it. And that takes another, half an hour at least, and then clean up. So it's like a 2-hour ordeal. What a life. Eh?
What a life.
So then it's also, I guess, just going through it, like once you've gone through one day and it's just like, wow, I just went a whole day without eating. And it's just like, that wasn't so bad. And now I'm on day 2, and it's just, I don't know, it just makes you more aware of time, although I'm not a fan of time. But just more aware, I guess, in general. It just gives you another way of looking at things without having food in your belly.
Yeah.
It takes, this was only recently where I learned this, if it's true, which I think it is, but it takes like it depends what you're eating as well. There's a lot of variables involved, but it takes 60% of the energy you get from food to digest your food.
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy to break it down.
Yeah, which is crazy. And then, I think it's been actually a couple of years that I knew this, but so I'm like, obviously being nutrient dense, everything. So my diet is like mixed up between, lemon water, whatever in the morning, and then green juices, and then tons of veggies in the summer. And of course, of where we live, I got, high quality meat. So it's like eggs that we have, where chickens are just basically foraging all day long, and beef cattle that eat grass, and basically, they're like 95% grass fed and a little bit of organic barley or oats or something, or spelt, whatever my dad picks up.
Yeah, we're very lucky here, man. We got a lot of great farms.
Yeah, Uxbridge is full of them. And the farmer's market. So, and plus having a garden, vegetable garden, I've always had one, but this year was just the year with
full on
COVID in full effect, and more time. I haven't been demoing or events, so just more time in the garden. And so food is definitely, and it has been a focus in my life, and sort of unknowingly for a little while, because back in high school, I seemed to gravitate towards restaurant jobs, or little cafes or something, Chinese restaurant. I worked in a few different, and most of it was like restaurants, and then outdoor landscaping work. So I'm a big fan of like just being outdoors and being in contact with nature. And that's where I feel like you learn things even just through osmosis and just being there, and talking to the trees or whatever's going on there. And it's just sometimes certain things come out, I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize I knew that, and where did that come from? Maybe it was the sun gazing, or so how do people get a hold of you, or what goes on? Like, are we allowed to do that in podcasts? That's what podcasts are for.
Don't say your home address.
Well, he's got a business address.
I got an office space here in Uxbridge. Most of my stuff is transitioned online just for safety. But, still let people in, just, certain precautions we have to take. But, always we'll talk on the phone first, just to kind of screen and see what's going on, if homeopathy is right, and if you really know, like, I always like to explain it to make sure people know what they're getting into, because it's one little, two little pellets, and it's like, oh, that's all I'm taking? Yeah, but, you're taking it often or repeatedly because you're trying to, fix something. It's like, oh, okay. And, sure enough, people see a change like, wow, I don't believe it. Like, I don't understand how it works. It's like, yeah, neither do I. It just, it works, man. It's like, I have an idea.
You'll edit that part out, right?
You don't.
I understand like how to use it, but we still don't really understand, how it works, like what's happening. We're taking these diluted imprints of a memory, and it's our body's able to heal itself. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about it, obviously, compared to what you know, but it's just like, I don't know, explain how the sun works. Like, yeah, it's this big ball of fire in the sky. I'm like, yeah, but what?
How did it get there?
What is going on? How is it suspended there? How are we rotating? Like, I know there's some pretty smart people out there that can give a pretty darn good explanation, but it's still magic. Like, whatever's going on. Like, the fact that we're on this rock rotating, spinning through space around the sun. Like, if you can explain that, then I think it's Albert Einstein or some one of those geniuses quotes, like, or is it quantum physics or something? It's like, if you understand quantum physics, that means you actually don't understand quantum physics. It's just like
how does the moon pull and pull the tides in and push them out? There's so many like crazy things. Even like a magnet, right? I don't know. It's crazy to me, I think. Right. Like,
I did one question. So, but if you don't know exactly the mechanics of how the homeopathy works at the most granular technical level, then how do you know what to prescribe to people?
Yeah.
In their case?
Okay, so that's a good question. Yeah.
You might want to repeat the question just so it's.
Can you repeat it? Yeah.
So the question was like, how do you know what remedy to use if you don't know its direct like action?
Like the deepest details of the technical levels.
So the first kind of clinical drug trials were with homeopathy, and we call them proving. So you take the Peruvian bark. We like when it was first found. This was way before like microscopes and like this thing is 200 years ago, the early 1700s. There was the germ theory wasn't really. Well, I think the germ theory was there. Like, they knew certain strains of bacteria, but not a lot, right? And based on like using the crude substance, so like the Peruvian bark itself, you would see what action it would have on the body. So if it was, dilating arteries or dilating veins or muscle contractions or, maybe contractions with like the colon or, like belladonna has a lot of flushing and dilation of the blood vessels. So through like taking substances crude form gives you like a picture, like understanding the direct physical action the remedy has, and then conducting these provings where the drug trial where you take these 10 random adults, male, females, various ages, they all start taking their like the remedy, right? Say it was like a 6C, something, it's still a little bit of crude, but it's not completely diluted. And then you're even, maybe every person gets a different potency of the same remedy. They're all gonna, based on their own individual susceptibility and constitution, their makeup, they're gonna express their own symptoms in their own way. And through these 10 people, you'll get this these collection of symptoms that gives you this picture of what the remedy can do, what it can produce, and what it can be used for. And so that's kind of how you get the symptoms of understanding the remedy and what it's used for. And then a lot of it too has been through like clinical practice or that's just, the idea is like cures like. So we understand the substance on a physical level and on like the homeopathic proving level. So, and you kind of combine those, and that gives you an idea of what it looks like. And then whenever you see those symptoms, like Peruvian bark, like the malaria-like symptoms, then you know that it can be used. I don't know, did that answer it?
Yeah, I guess, like, could you give kind of a, like, in, like, simple, like, sequence terms, like, so say, in non-COVID times, normal times, somebody walks into your office,
Yeah.
they say, hey, I have this thing with my wrist or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the step-by-step thing? Like, what happens?
Okay, so yeah, say someone comes in with a headache, right? So depending what, like, if it's an acute, like we're treating the headache or we're trying to treat the person to prevent the headaches. Let's just say we're treating the headache, so it's an acute disease. So they walk in, fill out an intake form, yada yada. Basically, we just want to understand the person and what their headache is like. This guy says he has a headache. Well, I get my own kind of headaches. I don't know what his headache feels like, right? So we got to do some digging. Like, well, when you say headache, what do you mean?
Where is it? Is it in the front? Is it in the temple?
Yeah,
in the back?
exactly.
Is it throbbing?
Yeah, where's the headache? Okay, so it's in the left side temple. What does it feel like? Oh, it's like a sharp stabbing pain, right? It's throbbing. Okay, so that's the location sensation. What makes it better? What makes it worse? Oh, I like to, heat makes it worse. I like to crack open the windows to get fresh air to cool me off, kind of thing. Okay, what about like bending or walking or laying down or any other things that you notice? It's like, oh yeah, like the lights off, sound off, dark room, laying down, kind of just away from everything because I feel highly sensitive. Okay, is there anything else about the headache? Yeah, if I go on too long and don't do anything, if I can't get to like a dark room or get fresh air or drink cold water, I get a little nauseous or something, and eventually I'll throw up, kind of thing. Like, oh, okay, that's very strange. I mean, there's a headache and nausea, so there's kind of two things going on there. And so based off of those kind of symptoms, and then you could also go a little deeper, like, how are the bowels? Is there constipation, dryness, thirst, hunger? Are they eating regularly? Like maybe it's a blood sugar thing. Well, that's kind of different. We're looking more from a homeopathic approach.
But you're trying to find out more about the person, so in a sense, if it is an acute thing or if there's it's actually coming from another place. Yeah,
because you have so much suspicion on what may be causing. There's so many different variables, right? And
it could be the chair they're sitting in.
It could be the posture,
the food they're eating. It could be,
maybe there's MSG or something. Maybe they're sensitive or gluten or. So often, I like to start with the remedy to see if we can get see a change, see something get better, the headache. And then, once when we find that remedy that fits them, they'll then, start taking it. So acute would be, you take the remedy and maybe you take it every 15 or 30 minutes, maybe every hour, up to 6 or 8 times in a day. And once when you notice things are getting better, you can stop and see how long that'll last. If it's, you only got a couple hours and it started getting worse again, then you can start taking it. Or, maybe it starts getting better and the body just takes over and it gets better and heals itself. It's very individual. You never know what's going to happen. And so, we want to give them a remedy to help treat the symptoms so they can feel better, but we also want to, do some digging to see okay, what's causing this, right? Is this, if it's from a certain food, what food is causing this, or what happens right before the headache, right? Was it a stressful event or an emotional thing? Was it even food? Was it maybe they had a bad sleep, or so many things. And So you always have to do some digging, because it may not always just need a homeopathic remedy. If they're constantly eating something that's going to be triggering these headaches, then they're never going to get better until that gets fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So homeopathic medicine doesn't work if the food you're putting in is not high quality?
Well, it'll work. You'll notice some change or improvement, but it's like, if you're taking something that's like constantly creating harm, like if you have like smoking, you have poor lungs and you're constantly smoking, you're never gonna truly get better unless you quit smoking, right? Mm-hmm. Or if you're drinking like gasoline and you have like bad digestion, as long as you keep drinking that gasoline, nothing's gonna get better, right?
You can maybe douse or try to put the flames out, but if you keep feeding it gasoline, then the fire's gonna keep burning.
Yeah. And it's not always like it may not always be a food thing too, right? Like it could be like
working in a factory that has chemicals in it.
Yeah, like poor air, or maybe you're living in a dark, musty basement, right? Mold, yeah, or a bad relationship with with your partner or family member, or someone at work or something, or there's also like epigenetics, something that happened to someone in your family like years ago, it's kind of still affecting you now, kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So there's always digging to do, and it's like homeopathy, it doesn't really, like, nothing really bad can happen from it, kind of thing. So it's always a good place to start. And then you can kind of like, maybe rule out some other things that it may be causing it, or, if you just need some relief, or maybe you've tried multiple modalities and still haven't gotten anywhere, the right remedy may just create that shift of energy so that you do respond to those other modalities, or or you become more aware that this gasoline isn't good for me anymore.
You said nothing bad can happen with homeopathy. Why?
Like nothing. I mean, it's so safe. Nothing bad, as in like, you can take this whole bottle of pellets and you're not going to overdose, right? It's so diluted. It's not really about the amount you take. It's more about the frequency. I mean, yeah, if you say you wanted to try and prove a remedy and you took it frequently, you may cause an aggravation or produce symptoms, which...
Yeah, what if a frequency just doesn't match with... it doesn't have to be the right remedy? The right remedy for it.
Yeah, like...
make you sick, right?
Well, so they don't have a direct physical action on the body, right? So it's not necessarily going to cause toxicity or something. It's just like, maybe you take too much of a remedy and you feel like you have a headache, or maybe you feel kind of sleepy or dull or drowsy, or maybe like you have a certain pain in your left leg that you never had before, and it's like, yeah, I guess.
So what does it have a direct action on then? Is it the mind, and then the mind will create the healing in the body, or? It's
our life force.
Okay.
It works on stimulating our chi, so that's what's, we kind of believe that God, the creator, Allah, whatever we want to call him, gave us everything we need. What?
Or her,
yeah. Right. He or she gave us everything we need to kind of combat ailments, disease, symptoms. Mm-hmm. And it's only when we, something becomes imbalanced, that's when things can kind of manifest and grow and get symptoms arise. Mm-hmm. And so with this energy, it's like that I call it like an artificial stressor. So it matches like that imbalance that you're in. So it kind of stimulates the life force to be like, hey, you're not working good. Things aren't flowing. We need to let it flow.
I guess in certain ways it's kind of like I do acupuncture, and that's similar concept. You're using needle to stimulate the acupressure point, which is obviously connected to whatever's going on. I mean directly connected, or it might be that same meridian line where you're sort of you're triggering or you're unblocking the chi for it to flow, and the life essence, the life force, or whatever you want to call it. And of course, in practicing qigong, like it's obviously your mind is at play, but it's sometimes just your body, and you're actually letting go of your mind and using the subconscious. So it's kind of one of those things I guess maybe can't, like, I've been practicing qigong. I'm no master, but I've been doing it for 3 years, and there's certain things that we do and certain movements that we do, and I can feel the effects, but I can't explain it. Like, it's just like, how is this even possible? How is it that I can see blue flames coming out of my fingers?
Wow.
How can I feel this magnetic charge between my hands? Like, the conscious mind is basically saying you're crazy, while the subconscious mind is you're actually like experiencing like magic. And that's sort of the relation I'm getting from sort of what you're saying. It's just like, it's freaking magic.
Yeah, I would know.
There are people that can explain it though, and it's like definitely it's a science.
But yeah, like, well, that's a tricky thing. Like, all science is a theory, right? Nothing is really a solid foundation. And
It's like, I don't know, other treatments like allopathic medicine or cancer treatments or whatever, like, yeah, it works, and yeah, the science says it works. Well, how come it's not working for them if it's scientifically proven? And there's all these scientific studies to show that taking this type of pill is gonna do whatever, but the side effects, like, yeah, how come there isn't the scientific research to show that the side effects are outweighing the effects? Like, there's enough science there that should be able to like say, well, okay, we can do this and change that so there is no side effects, but which is telling me that that one size fits all medicine, Tylenol, whatever it is, isn't meant for everyone to take. Sure, it might work for some of the population, but it's not meant for everybody. Then how does that white pill work? I guess they can. Certain things, it goes in and blocks this so that you don't feel it. Like, they're all a
lot of it's anti-therapy, right? Where it like blocks. So the difference between like allopathy and homeopathy is allopathy, they look to kind of control the body and block and suppress it. So like, inflammation, anti-inflammatory, we're going to block that inflammatory pathway, or an antacid for the stomach. We're going to, block the stomach acid so you're not getting a burning sensation. Or, anti-anxiety. We're going to change the chemistry of the brain so that you don't feel anxious or whatever, right? And those, they blocks how the body naturally works. These symptoms that we experience are signals of our body saying, hey, we're broken, something's not working right. You need to fix us. And these the control of the body with these medicines doesn't necessarily fix it. It just it's that cold, wet blanket, right? It just soothes it. It's a Band-Aid. It just helps, but it doesn't, it's still there, but it's, it's not really going anywhere or changing, or, maybe it did change. Now I have something else from, right? And then, so homeopathy looks at, the body can heal itself, and it is tricky to like kind of wrap your head around it. Like, this doesn't make sense. You have these diseases, you take this medicine, and all of a sudden you feel better. It's like, well, it's not always like black and white. Like the allopathic side, it's kind of like a flowchart medicine, right? You have this disease, you're given this name, so then you try this medicine. If this medicine doesn't work, you try this one, and that one doesn't work, this one. Okay, none of these worked. we gotta try a whole different like category, or maybe that's it. They don't have any other options for you.
Or they cut it out.
Yeah. So then that's where you're like, oh, well, what else do I do? It's like, well, there's so many other therapies out there that you can benefit from. It's just you got to do a little research. And homeopathy, it's not flowchart medicine, but it's the process. You want to understand the person, collect their symptoms, make sure that you have solid symptoms that they're there, like the location, the pain, the sensation, the modalities, is there anything else with the headache, like the nausea, and finding their symptoms and matching those symptoms to the most appropriate remedy. And it's honestly, it's like an experiment. You don't know what's going to happen when they take this. Either like nothing's going to happen. Maybe.
It's not random though, is it?
It kind of is random. It's
It's how we pick the remedies.
Oh no, it's all like, well, we have these materia medicas, right? So
it's based off of past information and
past, present. Yeah, like basically like the process works is we get their symptoms, then we have a repertory, which is a collection of symptoms and which remedies, like, say there's left-sided headache or left-sided pain in the head.
Right.
There's 145 remedies that'll be listed in that rubric.
Cool.
That have that symptom, right? And then you can say like the next symptom is a headache with nausea. There's 70 remedies that have that, and then
narrows it down.
It's slow, kind of narrows it down. So then you'll get a chart with like say 10, 20 remedies, and that gets you in the ballpark. And then when you like kind of understand, like you do your research on the remedies and like what their symptoms are and how like each remedy's headache kind of picture looks, then that kind of lets you narrow it down even further to be like, okay, this remedy has a right-sided headache and it's from dilated blood vessels. Okay, this remedy is left-sided, has sharp pain, there is nausea, so okay, I like the looks of that one, let's put that on the back burner. Look at another remedy. Oh, this remedy has a headache in the back of the head with different symptoms. Each remedy is so different. So then, you're like, okay, this remedy, this looks like a good fit. So then, they have to try it to see if it works or not. It's kind of crazy, but it's either gonna do nothing or it's gonna help. And if it does nothing, then okay, it wasn't the right remedy. We have to kind of backtrack and try a different remedy.
And becoming well versed in this stuff and understanding these things is why you did the school for like those in all that time spent in the training for this.
Yeah, it's it was a 3-year program, so you study your remedies, you study the repertory, you do your clinical hours and how to take an appropriate case, and it's all about asking these open, unbiased questions so that you're getting like the true word of the person and you're not putting your own judgment and words in their mouth kind of thing. Because it's like, you say burning pain, well, to me, burning may feel different. I don't know, or maybe your definition of burning is completely different than my definition, right? So it's, it's about understanding the person and how they kind of see and perceive. Yeah.
So you spend a lot of time, especially with a new patient, obviously, and then you continue to work with them in order to narrow things down and see what the progress is and adjust certain things until you start to tweak it and get it, to the right dial. And
it's like the initial appointment could be like 2 to 3 hours. It's a little long, but there's a lot to kind of cover at the beginning, depending on their medical history, the health history, what's all happened in the past. And then it's typically I'd like to see 3 follow-ups after that, just to make sure that it is the right remedy and that we are on track. If it's not the right remedy, maybe we'll be talking a little bit more, or making sure that, you know, you're taking it right, or, you know, that you are noticing a difference. It is like, you know, it's a slower, well, it's not always slower, but it can be slow healing, because it's the body doing it itself. It's not, you know, something blocking the inflammation. It's the cells need to work at their own time and rate, kind of thing. And depending how long it took you to get there,
I was going to say that, yeah.
If
If it took 2 or 3 or 5 years to get to where you're at, then it's not going to happen in a couple of days.
No, yeah, no, it might take a month or 2 or a year even, who knows, right? And that's why, you know, like, you just have to be patient with your health, like whether it's losing weight or fighting a cold or mental health. Like, it's, you know, it's not going to just change the next day. It's every little step you take every day, it's going to build and get you into the right direction.
Mm-hmm. That's part of what was drawn to me about, because things that work fast, or what appear to work fast, are just usually dangerous. And, you know, I like taking my times with certain things, and health, you know, I've learned that with certain things and what I've done or haven't done, or I've neglected with my own body or my own health. And then you just realize, yeah, it's not, you know, this pain in my back that I've had for 15 years. So just like when I started to do acupuncture or you know, coming to see you or whatever it is, or exercise, like, it's just like, you know, how come it's still there? Like, it should be gone by now. But it takes more than a year, I figured, if it's been with you for like 15 years.
Yeah, it's it all depends on the person and their healing, and, you know, what actually is going on. And yeah, it takes time, and you just got to be patient. Patience.
There's a few people pushing that P word lately that I've come across, and you know, whether you're building an empire or you know, regaining your health, especially with regaining your health, like, there's just it, because we can easily become frustrated with our own progress and our own selves, and we beat ourselves up about.
We've been like trained to want things now and fast, and, you know, like today, you know, shipping, you know, we want free shipping tomorrow, we want it to arrive tomorrow, or you know, we want our food now so we can go through a drive-through, or, you know, we're like that instant demand kind of society, when it's like, that's not really how things grow, you know.
Would you be willing to talk about the fact you have a flip phone?
you want?
Can you ask him, Angelo, to confront him about this?
Right. So it obviously happened tonight with Michael here, but it was only recently where was that? Where is it? At the store?
What?
Where I seen you with your phone, and I was like, I forget where we were. Where were we? Was it here? No, it was here. I think outside? You were seeing my dad. No, you were talking with my dad.
Okay.
You were seeing my dad. I'm like, why do you have my dad's phone for? Because my dad has a flip phone. And he's like, yeah, it's not my phone, or it's not your dad's phone, it's my phone. I'm like, what? Yeah. I think it's the same model as my dad. Well, there's probably not too many flip phones that
I can't imagine there's too many
buy
around
on the market. There's probably like only one brand left, or what is it, Motorola or something?
It's like, it has like 3 letters on it.
Is it your main phone or your secondary?
That's my personal phone. Yeah, I got it.
There's no 5G on that baby.
No, there's no 5G. I got it like early September. I was just kind of like, part of it was like, you know, the payments are dirt cheap, so that's awesome. That's good. The second part was like, I don't know. I struggle with the phone and social media, and, you know, having like the instant demand all the time to look something, you know, you got.
Some people just delete the Instagram app.
I just get. Pretty much. I took it to the extreme.
The whole flow.
Yeah, I had to get rid of it, man.
So you were in a smartphone.
Yeah, I had a smartphone before that for
Wow.
sure. Yeah,
And then you got smart and got rid of the smartphone.
exactly.
Fuck.
You
You're
know,
gonna watch this podcast. I hope you have a computer.
yeah, oh yeah, I still got a computer. Like, you know, I have an iPod too. Like, I'm not like totally away from it. It's it's just like, you know, it's that instant demand to always like have it out or to use it. You know, it's like, okay, if you want to get a hold of me, you can call or text me. I'll, you know, look at my messages or emails like when I'm at work or when I'm, you know, in business time, right? Like, I'm trying to separate like having my life and business and work, and just so you can be in the presence, right? Not get consumed by this social media feed. I don't know, it's a little extreme, but
Yeah, well, people are literally feeding their life into it.
yeah. So I'm like, kind of helps me, you know, not be on it all the time, or not like, you know, I don't think it's all that healthy, really, social media in general. Like, it has like this anxiety on us because we're like, oh, look at all these other people, they have such these great lives and I'm doing nothing in my life. It's like, whatever, I don't really like.
So what about all the people that will be watching this? Well, hopefully it's going to be consumed, and
Well, like,
and,
there's, yeah,
like, people are going to be learning from it. So you're going to have, I know what you're saying, and I've heard, you know, there's different guys out there, and Gary Vee is a big, you know, advocate of, like, I don't know if you know who that is, but he's a social media guru. Michael got me onto him, and yeah, I mean, it can do damage, I guess, just like, you know, a gun. You know, there's people that advocate for gun rights, but yeah, and I believe, yeah, anyone is willing to kill is going to kill. Sure, put a gun in their hand, put a knife in their hand, whatever, they're going to go crazy and they're going to kill.
mm-hmm.
And it's same with social media, but it is pretty damn easy because, like, I have it, and I limit myself, and it comes down to a lot of willpower, but it also, I don't know, it's part of maybe my generation of, like, I'm not totally, it wasn't ingrained in me. Wasn't born with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find, like, even if, and all the people that I follow are, like, you know, things that I'm into, and you know, whether it's health or nutrition or aliens or outer space or whatever it is, mushrooms, like, it's all stuff I'm interested in, but it's still, to me, it's just like, yeah, I'm into I want to read this, and like, oh, what are they doing? But it's at the end of the time of scrolling, it's just like, I'm not creating, I'm consuming, and I feel like I should be building something or pulling weeds out of the garden. And then, you know, a lot of it relates to the business. So it's just like, well, this is where business is going. This is where business is at, not where it's going. So it's like, I got to be on it just to, like, you know, have the experience, understand it, and be able to contribute to it, so that, and I agree, like, it's perhaps not in a good place, because there's some of the nonsense on there that people get into, and it's just like, well, are we going to let that wave continue to ride, or are we going to step in there? Am I going to step in there and do my little part of, like, hey, like, there's more interesting things in this world apart from, you know, big butts and lips or whatever it is that people flip on through Instagram or whatever, and you know, there is so much, like,
It's all about the balance. Like, I'm not saying, like, you know, social media is going to destroy your life or something. You know, it's all about moderation, right? It's like, for me, I don't really, you know, I don't really need or want to have the instant access to it, right? Like, I'll do it when I want to do it or where I want to do it. So I use a flip phone. So it's like, yeah, okay, it totally, like, separates it, makes it basic, makes it easy for me. And, you know, there still is, like, a lot of great information out there on social media. I'm not saying it's all bad and it's all, like, you know, mind numbing or brainwashing. It's just, you know, there's good and bad in everything. And it's just, you know, doing what's best for you, and so that you can have the best quality of life. And
Some people say, well, this relates to my qigong practice, but there is no good and there is no bad, and whatever spiritual quotes are out there. But yeah, no, I totally agree that obviously we're seeing the effects it has on certain people, and whether it's like cyberbullying or whatever it is that's going on, like there's some negative repercussions of social media, which I guess comes with anything, it's this is relating to what Gary Vee had said. It's just like, whether it's a magazine or whatever, people were flipping through magazines and looking at whatever, how a woman's image, and then women see that. I'm like, oh, we need to have that. But now with the phone, of course, it's more instant. Instagram, that's part of the name there. And you just get these Insta messages or Insta graphics where you get to get stimulated, and it can go on and get, can consume you rather than you just consuming it for a little bit. So yeah, I think our conversation has gone in a few different directions, but we had a main focus of just, simple health and homeopathic remedies. I really appreciate you having here. I hope you're going to leave me with one of these hunks of chaga. I've got my remedies that I'm taking traveling with me, my first aid kit. I highly recommend hooking up with this guy, Nigel MacGregor.
Thank you.
And I've had great experience. He's also my friend, so it's official now as it's being broadcasted on this podcast, which it's our first podcast.
First podcast.
Our first podcast has been together, which is great, and hopefully we'll have you back.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'll definitely be glad to come back. This is a great little chat.
Okay.
Cool.
Sign up to that social media feed and give us a follow, a like, a share, a comment.